Hello and welcome. It is a pleasure to greet everybody. We are here for the third class in our four-part series with Dr. Biti Ro'i, and our introduction to Kabbalah will today focus on Kabbalah from the Israeli mystics, looking at 16th century.
Actually, I will talk a lot about the Zohar because we'll speak about 16th century, but we'll start with the Zohar because we didn't do the Zohar last time. We start with Ramban, with Nachmanides.
Okay, this is how we end up getting into an 18-part course. Please, Dr. Ro'i, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to see you again. And in Israel, it started to be, a Purim fun. Although today people are thinking how to be happy in those days. How can we still go on? And with so many people that lost their dears, and so many sad families, and wounded soldiers, etc., and the kidnapped, that I actually dedicated this 4 series of classes to the release of Avinatan Or, my friends captured in Gaza, with all the rest of them. Hope to see them all together. So basically what I wanted to say is that Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, that it's another hobby of mine, is speaking about the rejoice to the future, meaning that if you cannot, connect yourself to the present joy, you should remember the joy of the future, to connect yourself to a kind of a future imagined joy. And I think this is a very profound thing today, to think how do we celebrate this coming Purim. While I'm speaking to you here, I hear from the streets of Jerusalem, the Purim songs and the music, and for sure it's going to be a different Purim this year. But we'll speak about it later on, about Purim during the Jewish history. And this is not just a sad time in 2024, but rather Jews were under stress and terrible times also in other periods. So I hope to get to it back while later on. So now what I want to start is actually, last time we spoke about the riddle, what happened, that over a millennium, the secret, the wisdom, as we call it, Torah Sod, the secret wisdom of the Jewish tradition, was hidden over a millennium, and wasn't developed outside, wasn't publicly announced, written books about, but rather it was kept secretly, in the inside streams of I would say, the lava that goes under the Jewish tradition. Halacha was developed, hermeneutics about the Torah was developed, but the secret, the wisdom, the Jewish wisdom of the secrets were hidden, as we saw that actually, according to Talmud, it should be not orally, publicly, being talked and being told in the public. Nevertheless, we saw last time how philosophy in the Middle Ages made something crucial for the Kabbalah. Actually, is the reason maybe we should celebrate philosophy, because it gave the Kabbalah an urge to go outside, as we say, in the streets, and people should know about Kabbalah, and people should study Kabbalah, and not just a group of elite of people that sits, the sages, the wise people of the Jewish tradition, but rather more and more people, Jews, were into Kabbalah and adapted Kabbalah as their view of what does it mean for them to be a Jew, and actually to learn these secrets that became the most important thing if you want really to understand the religious life, you should deal with the secrets, you should study secrets. We saw in the Middle Ages, nevertheless, we saw Nachmanides that is hesitating if to say the secrets out loud or not. And eventually, because of Maimonides and the philosophy, is trying to say to the people, listen, there are secrets. I won't tell you all of them, but nevertheless, you should know about it because it's the inner tradition, it's the inner wisdom of the Jewish people. Today, what we'll do, we'll speak about a different layer of the Kabbalah, which I will call it the exoteric Kabbalah, meaning the outside Kabbalah. If Nachmanides still wants to close Kabbalah and is not willing to expose all the secrets out loud and doing it very gently in a hesitating way, as we saw last time, when he actually speaks, giving a commentary to the Torah and writing in a kind of a hint in the way of truth and giving us a little hints about Kabbalah, the Zohar is a completely different story. The Zohar, the book, I would say, the diamond in the crown of the Kabbalah literature, the Zohar, this book that was written in the Middle Ages in Spain, in Castile, but actually pretend that he is a Tanaic, Mishnaic, first generation of the sages in the Galilee, in Israel, although the composer, the writer of the Zohar, some people think it's a group of people, not one, wrote this composition in Spain, in Castilian, in the Middle Ages. They actually relates the book to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the big Tanaic figure, the student of Rabbi Akiva, that he is the author of this composition. The Zohar understanding of secrets are completely different. This is not just, as we saw, the secrets of creation, the secrets of the chariot of Ezekiel, and the secrets of sexuality, but rather everything is under a secret. So it's a different understanding of secret as something that is actually encompass everything. Everything now is a secret. Every verse in the Torah is full with secrets. And what we are doing is we are trying to expose those secrets together in a kind of a community of people who walk on the roads with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And now every verse, not just these three topics, again, sexuality, creation, and Ezekiel chariot, is under secret. The entire world is full and alive of secrets. And every verse is hidden an inner understanding of it. So this is the Zohar coming with what I call exoteric attitude to the secrets. Not the hesitation way of Nachmanides that we saw last time, but rather we are in a different area that everything is under a secret and we're trying to reveal it. Of course, nowhere and no time would be that secrets are going directly on the streets with no obstacles to prevent it from being exposed in not a manner, not in an honor way. The secret is characterized as this dialectic between revealing and hidden the secrets. Nevertheless, the Zohar is coming with a different attitude. So I'll say a few words about the Zohar, and then we'll read something of the Zohar, just to taste what is it about. So I will do now a small introduction about the Zohar. Okay, so as I said, the Zohar is a commentary to the Torah, is a commentary to Genesis, Exodus, etc., and also a few books like Ruth, like Songs of Songs, and others. It was published, printed in the 16th century, 1558, in two places in Italy. One was Mantova and one was Cremona. This is the outside information about the Zohar. Now, what is the Zohar? It's a commentary to the Torah. In the middle, we find the main protagonist, the main character of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, as I said. He is the hero, he is the mentor, he is the teacher of the secrets. With him, there is a group of friends, of Tanaic friends, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Abba, a group of friends that actually they're doing their secrets not through studying Torah in the Bet HaMidrash, in the layer house, inside the study traditional place that the sages were developing their understanding and insights about the Torah, but rather outside. Maybe it's not arbitrary description of them going outside on the roads, usually on the nature, next to Tiberias. Now, the location is the Galilee in Israel. They're walking together, and for example, they see a shade under a tree, and they said, "Wow, what a beautiful shade it is!" And at the same time, they're trying to speak that they're starting to speak about God as the shade, and as God as the shelter from a sunny location and a dangerous heat. So at the same time, they're seeing a physical events outside, but they are going deeper and seeing those sights as an inner and spiritual sights of the divine, and the ability to connect to the divine through what they see. So both the verses of the Torah and their experiences outside on the ways are a kind of a makpetza. How do you call it, makpetza, when you go to a swimming pool? They're kind of jumping to a higher level of understanding the world around them as a divine that is full with a divine and spiritual content at the same time that it is material, aesthetic, and physical. So this is a few description about the Zohar. I would say now that we didn't say what does the Zohar do for the verses. I mean, what is the key for the Zohar to understand the verse as a spiritual experience or a spiritual
Dr. Roy,
opportunity?
I think you have a question from one of the students.
Yes, Gloria. Thank you. Yes, please.
Yes. Good evening, good morning. I have a question because what you're describing, it sounds like improv. You know, that you're given a prop and you're acting on stage and you just relate to the prop in the moment. Did they already have an agenda before they went on their walk, or were they inspired by what they saw?
That's a great question. And you know what? I would think it is somebody in between, something in between, meaning they're coming with a kind of what you call agenda, or I would call it diagram or shablonic. Nevertheless, they're very inspired with what they see. They want innovations. They are looking for what they call chidush, innovation. They want not to come with a traditional explanation that they know in the tradition, rather with their new, inspiring excitement about what they see. So it's a great question what you said. So it's between improvising something and knowing by heart actually a kind of a vague understanding of what's going on. So your great question is going to lead me to what I wanted to say. What is the key? What is the key for them to read the Torah? I will compare it to Maimonides. Maimonides, at the same time, not far away in time and not far away geographically is giving a new key for the Jewish tradition to read the Torah. His key is the philosophy. Philosophy now becomes the key that Maimonides is saying, if you are the one who is confused, we spoke about it last time, between Aristotle and Plato and the Torah, I want you to read the Torah now, not in the simple layer that you read it already, but rather in a philosophical way. Meaning, if it says that the man was created in the God's image, don't think it's the shape. Don't think that the image is the shape of God. Think that the image is the intellectual capacity that is mutual to a human being and the divine. Or if you read, we're coming to Haggadah very soon, if you read Beyad Chazaka Ubizroa Netuya, with a strong hand of God, don't think that God has a hand. This is a way to describe his power, his strength. So you use the word hand, okay? So this is basically what Maimonides is doing, not far away from the Kabbalah, giving a new key to the Jews to read the Torah. Now the Kabbalists are coming with a different key. Their key is not the philosophy, but rather what we will call the understanding of the divine world. They have a view of the divine world, of a dynamic picture of the divine that moves between all kinds of characters. The very well known is the judge, din, and chesed, and mercy. We see it also in the Bible. God sometimes is angry and he's doing hard things, and sometimes he is giving up, forgiving of the sins, and he's acting out of mercy. So for the Kabbalist, the divine is not one in the very simple way of one, but rather a kind of a dynamic world of characters that moves and try to adapting itself to reality through these characters. So they speak about 10 different characters that they want to read the Torah through them. And I will give you an example now to a verse, a very simple verse that you and me, before reading the Zohar, won't think about what they're bringing to, but the way they're reading the verse. So let's share one minute here. Let me share it with you. 1 minute. Okay, רגע. Okay. Okay. This is the verse that I want to analyze the way they read the Torah. So here we have the very well-known verses of Genesis. God planted the Garden in Eden in the east and placed there the human who had been fashioned, and the whole story. I'm skipping because our time is very limited, and I'm going to the last verse. A river issues from Eden to water the garden, and it then divides and becomes 4 branches. Okay? In Hebrew, v'nahar, a river, yotze is going out from Eden, leashkot, to water the garden, and from there he is separated into 4 different heads, rivers, small rivers. So if we look about this verse, we say, very simple, it's a scenery of the Garden of Eden, describing there were trees, it puts the human being there, Adam, and now inside the Garden of Eden, there was a river going out from a kind of a spring or a source of the river that is watering the entire garden, and there it's separated into 4 different streams of water. So this is the simplistic way to read the verse. Now the Kabbalists, the Zoharic, are coming and they're saying, uh-oh, let's see. This is not a simple description. This is actually a description of abundant, of shefa, of a divine flux that comes from above and watering the entire system, the entire world of the divine. So they actually looking at the pasuk, at the verse, and they're saying there are four nouns, okay, linguistically speaking, on the pasuk. There is a river, there is Eden. Eden actually is before the river because it's the source for the river. There is the garden, and then there is the four heads of this river going, watering the entire world. Wow. So let's look at this. Eden is the first thing. River is the second thing. I'm looking now kind of chronologically and from above to the bottom. Eden is the source. River is the second. The garden is the third. And the four branches are the fourth one. The entire verbs of the verse is inspiring the Kabbalist. They're looking to see how the divine is flowing, you say, watering the entire system. So here actually we can say that Eden maybe is what they call Keter, the crown, the above character of the divine. The second one, river, they call it the Binah, wisdom. The third one is the garden, which will be the Shekhinah, which will be the kingdom of what they call Malchut. And the four branches actually symbolizing this world that is full of separation. And four can be an archetype number of separation and plurality. So look how this verse inspires the Kabbalist. When they see water, when they see light, they at the first time thinking about the divine as a flow of goodness, a flow of influx that goes down. And the simple verse becomes now a description of the divine world, the godly world, if you'll say, is actually full of dynamic river of light and river of fire. By the way, the verb, the word nahar, and the verb light in Aramaic are the same verb. Nehora is light in Aramaic. So they see at the same time the stream of water and the stream of light. By the way, in all mystical traditions, a fire and water are a symbol of the divine, and the Kabbalist want to be connect to them. He wants to flow with them. He wants to let himself have this kind of fire, a light or water within himself. So we just analyzed one example of the way the Kabbalist, the Zoharic tradition, is reading one verse. The entire Zohar is to read more and more verses of the Torah. Just have it on my, here you see, this is the Zohar, and it fills with small letters that actually goes on the Torah and gives a beautiful drashot. I want to go also to read with you the motto. Do you say motto in English? Like the title of the book of the Zohar, and to see why did they pick up the name Zohar to this this book. And again, by the way, the word Torah in Aramaic, which is Oraita, also mean light. Oraita, it is Torah. The Aramaic is the language of the Zohar, pretending it was written in Israel in the Talmudic time. But the word Oraita, which is Torah, also is the word Or, which is light. You see, they are fascinated by the light as description of the divine and as an experience of the divine. So this is the name of the composition comes from this verse in Daniel 12. In Hebrew, והמשכילים יזהירו כזוהר הרקיע, and the knowledgeable will be radiant like the bright expanse of sky. And those who lead to many righteousness will be like the stars forever and ever. So this verse becomes a kind of a motto to their understanding of what they are as a Kabbalist. We actually have a wisdom, we have a knowledge. And they will explain later on that this knowledge is not just intellectual, but rather what they call uvnata de liba, understanding of the heart. This is a very beautiful expression to say, uvnata de liba, the wisdom of the heart, which is not intellectually only. So they will radiate. They want to radiate. They want to live in this world radiating. They want to be light and within light. They want to be encompassed with light, and they want to have light within themselves, like the bright expanse of skies. And those who lead the many of the righteous will be like the stars forever and ever. Yes, a kind of a forever lasting in our radiating through this world. By the way, this understanding of the verse for them was to say that the sky is like a kind of Megillah, klaf. How do you say klaf? A kind of a
Parchment.
Thank you. Parchment, that you actually open it up. It's like a sky. And the letters are like the stars. And we want, because they're dealing with letters and words, and they are into these letters and words as their location of experience. So they want actually to say also that this sky above is like a place for them to write themselves, to write their chidushim, their understanding, their new understanding, like the stars that will shine forever. And I want to thank them because I think they succeeded. I think they succeeded to give us a composition that is so beautiful that it lasts in a way forever and empowers people forever. They radiate, but they also radiate to others and for the generations. So here, this is you see, Mantova in Hebrew, this is the place where the Zohar was first, was on print. Mantova and Cremona was a competing two public houses. And they actually competed because they knew that each other is going to publish this book. And there are differences between these two editions. Nevertheless, what I wanted to say is that it wasn't easy to publish the secrets of the Zohar, because we know it from our first meeting that there is a very strong tradition since the Mishnah and the Talmud that it's forbidden to publish secrets. So we spoke about the necessity that they actually felt in putting these words of wisdom on print. But I want to say it wasn't easy. It was under dispute. Some people were against it. Some people were in favor, and they won actually in printing this the Zohar. I want to move now to our hero for the coming days, Esther. Because I was thinking, there's so many things in the Zohar, such a rich and long composition. So what we can say about Esther? And I want to say that I find two innovations, ideas in the Zohar that actually inspires me. And I will speak now about these two. One is to say that the Zohar actually telling us that there is evil in the world. I think we spoke about it, that there is evil in the world, as opposed to Maimonides in Guide of the Perplexed, part 3 of the book, chapters 10 to 12, saying to us, Maimonides, that there's no actually real evil in the world. Evil is just a lack of good. And in that way, Maimonides is putting the evil experience of the human being in a kind of unreal experience that we need to understand that actually it's a lack of light. As opposed to that, the Zoharic theory is that evil is real. Evil is something that is real in our world. I must tell you that after October 7th, I felt that it's one of the presents that the Zohar can contribute to our world, to say, you have to admit there is evil. There are evil and bad forces in the world. It's not in the marginal. It's not something that is not real. It's completely real. It has officers. It has missions. It has plans. Evil is here. So it's not the topic of our conversations, but to say that the Zohar is telling us there is like the good side of life, there is what the Zohar calls in Aramaic the Sitra Achra, the other side. I think about the Pink Floyd, the other side of the moon, yes, the dark side of the moon. But don't think it's something, bizarre. It's the other side of everything. It's very organized. It's a Sitra Achra. And whoever denies that there is evil in the world does not understand something about reality and something about the way this reality conducts. So this is one thing that I will say is a innovation of the Zoharic thinking, as opposed to the philosophical thinking not far away from the Zohar, as I keep saying about Maimonides. There's always the other side of what I want to emphasize about the Zoharic thinking. The other innovation thing is the feminine and femininity. At the first time, femininity gets an importance and described as something that is very crucial to understand both the divine and the human being in this world. The first time, the divine is described also as a feminine. Because if we read in the Bible, and the Hebrew is very, gender style, because in Hebrew you have Zachar and Nekeva, you have masculine and feminine. So God actually in the Bible, in the Hebrew, is a masculine. It's clear to everyone who reads the Bible that God is a masculine. and presenting the divine in masculinity way. The Kabbalists are coming with a different understanding that actually if you say that the divine is not from one kind, but rather a dynamic ways of all kinds of characters, so why shouldn't he be also feminine in a way? If we think about God as old and young and under judge and under mercy in a kind of a dynamic way of looking at the divine, why shouldn't we say not just Avinu Malkenu, but also Imenu Malkatenu, our mother, our queen? So the Kabbalists don't want to give up they don't want to give up the characters of femininity, which they see as important characters for life and for the religious life, which is giving birth, giving life, creating new souls, nursing, and ruling in a matriarch way, being able to have a womb, being able to give birth. All these characters are important for the Kabbalists, for their own life, for their own religious life. And they don't want to give up. They want to emphasize that these are a crucial characters that they want to relate it to God. So here we are coming up with a new concept of, actually, I would say renewing concept of the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is the word that we find in the Talmud, not in the Bible, but in the Talmud, for God presence. Shekhinah, the verb, the root of the word Shekhinah is presence. And when the Talmudic sages, they want to say the two are studying Torah, Shekhinah benehem, they want to say that God is present in many cases. When people are studying Torah, God is present. So they say Shekhinah. When a man and a woman are under a good relationship, they will say Zachu Shekhinah benehem. So it's a kind of presence of God. Nevertheless, in the Talmudic sense of it, there's no femininity character to the word Shekhinah, but the idea that the word Shekhinah in Hebrew is a feminine one. But there's no entity, feminine entity, characters to say Shekhinah benehem. We can switch it. God is between them, or the presence of God is between them. At the Kabbalah, the first time this word Shekhinah becomes a symbol, a statement of the feminine aspect of the divine. Yes, there is a kind of feminine characters that we don't want to give up, and we want to relate it to the divine world. And we actually acknowledge that these are important things for human being and the divine as well. So now we are coming to Esther. And the story of Esther, according to the Kabbalist, is at the same time the story of the feminine divine. As we explained before, how the scenery of the Garden of Eden can be a scenery of the divine system, so do we understand that for the Kabbalists, they read everything in double. It's this world and it's a divine world at the same time. The river can be this river that we see in front of us. And the shade of the tree can be the shade of the tree that we see in front of us. Nevertheless, it's also the shade of God. Adonai Tzilcha. It's a verse from Psalm. God is your shade. And so too, the river can be an influx from the divine, and Esther can be at the same time historical figure, but at the same time a divine feminine, which is the Shekhinah. So if we read now the Megillat Esther, the Esther book, we'll be very cautious to keep in mind that there is a political historical story of a figure, a very brave one in the history of the Jews, that brought salvation to a murder statements of the Jews, but at the same time she symbolizes the Shekhinah, the feminine divine. So let's look a little bit about this, because I thought before Purim we should. By the way, it says on every woman that we will find in the Bible. It can be Sarah, it can be Rivka, it can be, Rachel and Leah. Every woman, actually, when you read description in the Torah, it's at the same time a description of the story, of the drama, I would say, of the feminine divine. I want, before we read about Esther, to say that for the Kabbalist, the most important thing, the ideal for this world, is to unite the masculine and the feminine. And they made a kind of a phrase to it. We call it in Aramaic, Leshem Yichud, Kudsha Brichu Ushchinte, for the unification of God, the masculine, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with Hashchina. Basically, to say that the ideal understanding is the unification between the male and the masculine is a very erotic understanding of the Jewish tradition, which I want to emphasize. God is not a narcissist, he's not living by itself, but he needs a kind of unification with the feminine aspect of the divine. And when people around the world are taking their hands and they put it over their eyes and saying, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, when they say Echad, one, what do they mean? So two people can sit at the same bench in shul, in a synagogue, and think about completely different things when they say one. If it will be a Maimonidean Jew, he would say that Echad, one, is the mathematical explanation of one, which has no numerical after that. One that is not coming from the numbers 1, 2, 3. One that is completely one. But for the Kabbalist, Echad, in a deep understanding, is unified, not one from its own, but the one who is unified with. And they call the word Echad, they separate the letters Echad to Ach, which is the brother, my lover, and Daled, which is the Shekhinah. So these Jews are sitting at the same place, but they're thinking about a completely different understanding of the most important, well-known, famous statement of the Jewish people ever. To say that we see the unification of the masculine and the feminine as the center of the Jewish tradition and the ideal thing for us to do in what we do in our religious worship is to say something very important about sexuality and eros, which I understand embody in the very center of the Jewish tradition. If we look at the holiest place of the Jews, inside the temple and inside the tabernacle, we see that inside of the inside, the most holy place, that the holiest person, which is the holy priest, in the holiest day of the year, which is Yom Kippur, in the holiest place, which is inside the temple, inside it, there were cherubs. On the ark, there were cherubs that actually symbolizes already in the Talmudic time, the relationship between God and the Jewish people. And if they were, according to the Talmudic verses, in 3 places in the Talmudic tradition, if they were together as a man and a woman, that is a sign for a good time. And if they are separated back to back, horrible things can happen. So actually to say, listen, we see all kinds of historical events, political events. Nevertheless, the infrastructure, the subtitles of what we see is a catastrophe that happens in the divine world, or at the contrary, a unification of the masculine and the feminine. I think this is it's an amazing idea to say that this is the way we read reality. It's all about love. It's all about unification and yichud. So Esther, according to the Zohar, actually, Tikunei Zohar, is the divine feminine. She's very wise, and she is actually symbolizing the history of the Jewish people. She's at the same time divine entity, but at the same time she symbolizes the Jewish people. And what I want to end this meeting is to end it with a very, very well-known poem that we sing after reading the Megillah. And actually refers to the name of the city of Shushan, or maybe in a Persian accent will be Susan, and the word in Hebrew, Shoshana, Shushan and Shoshana, which is the rose, which symbolizes the Jewish people, according to Songs of Songs, as a woman, as a Shoshana, as a rose amongst the throne,
The thorns.
thorns that are trying to destroy her, but she is the loved one. This is actually the first page of the Zohar, is starting with this verse about the Shoshana, the rose, which is the people of Israel, which is the divine feminine. So actually, if we read this poem, that based on the verse, the city of Shushan celebrated and rejoiced, then we can breathe after this horrible verdict of murdering the Jews in the Persian area. We actually understand that Shoshanat Yaakov, the rose of Jacob, the rose of Jacob is both us and the feminine. And we are actually calling in this poem, very well-known poem, that God will not abandon us, that this entity, this feminine entity of the divine, will be with us. We'll keep its promise to be with us and to be able that, you see it at the same time, it's a political songs, of course, of people who were humiliated, who were without power, who were so weak, to be also strong. It's a song of hope that actually the Shekhinah symbolizes the promise. I can combine it also to Pesach very soon, Vehi she'amda la'avotenu. And the Kabbalists are reading Vehi. This is the Shekhinah. She symbolizes the promise of the Jews, even though they were persecuted and murdered, to rise up and to be like a beautiful rose, the rose of Jacob, which will give them sometimes a fantasy that becomes to reality, to create this world for a better place, and to make everything upside down, to believe in the capacity and the ability to change this world into a better place where you will rule and she will be the kingdom, Malchut, the Shekhinah. This is Esther. By the way, in Lurianic tradition in the 16th century, which loves numerical understanding, they found out that the word Shoshana is numerically speaking the word Esther. And I think it's 611 to say that Shoshana of Songs of Songs and the Shushan of the city of the Esther story are actually the same. It symbolizes the Shekhinah, it symbolizes the Jewish people, that they have this ability to create a new life and to put their life into upside down, from being humiliated to be in a salvation position. So I think we will stop here today. And I think what we saw is from the informative understanding of the Zohar as a Middle Ages composition that is a pseudonym to a Tanaic composition, that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai goes with his friends and they give innovations of verses. We went to understand deeper understanding of the key of reading the Torah and the way they read the Torah. And we gave two examples today. One was a river flows from Eden. And the second one was about Esther and the innovations, ideas of the Kabbalah that actually hold people's hearts and kept them understanding that their life and the divine life are not, parallel lines that has no connection, that is so abstract, and the divine is so abstract that he's outside of the world, but actually to understand that this world that they are living has something in between, something that has to do with the divine. It's not just an abstract idea of perfection, philosophical idea, but rather an idea that goes with them in their history, in the fantasy and in the reality, and enable them to see reality as a river that flows from the divine to their life. So I will stop here, and if there's any questions, response, I'll be happy to hear. Please. Yes, Gloria, please.
I love this class. As I'll speak as a very flawed human being, which I am. I love Judaism because in my mind, everything is subject to interpretation, which I find very forgiving in a way. And so when you're talking about Kabbalah and the Zohar, I spent my life working in psychiatry. And one of the gifts I think we give patients and ourselves is the ability to reframe situations. So, you see something and it's not black and white, and if you tend to see everything very negatively, there's another way of looking at it. And it's also correct. There's no wrong answer. So
Thank you very much. My mother was a psychoanalyst, and I was born into this, and I'm thinking a lot about the connection between psychoanalysis and the Kabbalah.
I look forward to the book that you're going to write.
No, there's something very, very profound in what you say, in the way that they see reality as something that you can recreate, and be open to all kinds of dynamics, and not to see something as stagnation and a dogmatic way of looking at a religion, but rather, and I think Jewish religion specifically is about the midrash, which the Zohar is also a kind of a midrash, to say there are all kinds of layers. Freud, cigar can be just a cigar. If it can be just a cigar, it can be also not a cigar. So a river can be a river, but it can be something else. And this ability to open up the mind to a creativity is not just intellectual capacity, but as you say, it's a well-being. That's what I wanted to explain about Esther. It's a well-being of a nation and personas, individuals into this nation, to create a better life, even if reality now is not very happy with this we started. It's maybe can explain, the deeper, I would say, DNA of the Jewish people that has a direct relationship. That's what I believe, to this kind of religiously understanding of reality and the text as something that is dynamic. It enables us, it gives us a well-being space to create. So thank you very much for your response.
Bitty, I'm finding that form follows function, if I can use that expression, in the way that you are teaching this class. We spoke a lot about a river today, and you opened with this imagery. And I'm finding, amazingly, in a positive way, the class itself is like a river. It's flowing. This is not building blocks where one piece logically fits perfectly into the next, but rather this flow of ideas, almost a flow of consciousness. And what emerges out of it are these concepts of secrets and unifications. I'm enjoying it immensely, and I just wanted to point that out. It's not a question; it's just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Mark. Thank you. I see a Jewish tradition not just as intellectual, theoretical, but as a poetic too, and as a kind of also a well-being in the what we said just now. So yes, thank you. I take it as a compliment. Thank you. I see it as a
there were two questions in the chat. And maybe you can
summarize. Maybe you can summarize.
One was, is it true that a person cannot study Kabbalah before the age of 40? Could you talk to that? And what was Spinoza's thoughts on Kabbalah?
Okay.
And another question, that was a two-part question. Another question, the rabbis were unhappy when the Torah was translated into other languages. So are there boundaries to this level of understanding?
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So I would say about 40, about the the tradition of a 40. I would say that most of it was after Sabbatianism, after Sabtai Tzvi. This we call him Mashiach Sheker, the liar Messiah, that actually ended in him being a Muslim, going under a Islamic religion, that the rabbis were very afraid of the way Sabtai Tzvi translated the Zohar ideas into what he said, which is actually antinomous understanding of the Jewish religion, and to say that we are now, everything that was forbidden now is not forbidden, and all kinds of orgia, sexual prohibition, and so on, to the Frankism later on. So most of this prohibition of the age of 40 was because of the rabbis being so afraid of what Sabtai Tzvi, a catastrophe for the Jewish tradition, that so many good people went after him, believing he was the Messiah. They felt that he was he based actually his author, Rav Natan Me'aza. You know, Aza is a very well-known Jewish city. We have Natan Me'aza. We have in the 16th century 3 generations of rabbis. There is a street in Gaza, the street of the Jews. So Natan of Gaza was the author of Sabtai Tzvi. Actually took the ideas from the Kabbalah and translated it into his own understanding, that the rabbis were so afraid they said not from the age of 40. Nevertheless, later on, people said, you must study Kabbalah. This is the remedy of secularism, of skepticism, of heresy. Actually, it comes because people didn't study the secret, the inner wisdom of the Jewish tradition, and they kept seeing the Jewish religion as something that is artificial, on the surface, has no inner life, stagnated and legal, not with spiritual dimension. So actually they said, you must. This is Rabbi Chaim Vital in the 16th century, and others, Rav Kook in the 20th century, saying you must, if you want to deal with a new Jewish history, you must study the inner understanding of the religion. So this is what I can say in a very, very short way. Spinoza came up with interesting ideas about God and the world as one, what we call pantheism. But I think he still kept the philosophical understanding of the God as an intellectual and abstract thing. And by the way, in a very exciting, when they opened the Hebrew University here in Mount Scopus, not far away from where I sit, they did a kind of a ritual, bringing Spinoza back. You know, Spinoza was under a cherem. He was under he was excommunicated from the community. People thought it because of his ideas. Some people think it's not. Nevertheless, in the Mount Scopus, when they opened the Hebrew U, they did a kind of a ritual. They said, Spinoza, Baruch ata, Baruch, his name is Baruch, Benedictus, Baruch ata, we keep you back inside. So the relationship between Jewish tradition and Spinoza are very complicated, but I will stop here. The question about boundaries and borders of studying Kabbalah, it's a whole, again, it's a very, very broad topic. I would say now that you know that Kabbalah went out of the Jewish community in all kinds of institutions, and I don't know if these times of history we can still keep the boundaries of Kabbalah as in the Mishnaic time. We're in a different area, and who and why somebody can study Kabbalah. I don't think it's a stupid idea to say that not everyone can study Kabbalah. I think you have to come with the right attitude to this. I do believe in that. Nevertheless, we have this age, we don't have a kind of ways to keep it inside anymore. I think I related in a way to these three questions.
Absolutely. Very good. Kol hakavod. Okay, thank you so much. We will pause here for today. Thank you, Toda Rabah, Dr. Roy, and we will resume next week. Next week will be our fourth of 4 classes. So I will take this opportunity to wish everyone an early Purim Sameach, a happy Purim, a Freilichen Purim. And God willing, when we meet again and see each other next week, we'll be on the other side of Purim. Shetavo Aleinu Livracha. It should come on us with a blessing.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
Be well, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi Mark. Thank you, everyone. Purim Sameach.
Purim Sameach.
Sameach.